Okay, so we talk about this aging. Okay, so what is aging? Like, what is it? What is, when you hear the word aging? I know we talked about it. It's like self-growth, but is there a sentence or one or two words that you think of, like right away at the top of your head?
Fortunate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
We're back. I am your host, Helen.
And MT, and we are here with the Helen and MT Podcast. We're so honored and privileged to share this space with you. And thank you for showing up and listening.
It means a lot to us.
It does, yes.
And obviously you hear that we have made a name change. We have changed our podcast to the Helen and MT Podcast.
Obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because do you want me to share a little bit?
Yeah.
So when we decided to do it, you were in Florida and I called you and I just said, how would you feel if we changed the name of the podcast? And you were like, oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, the feminine word never really, I liked it. It wasn't like, wow.
Yes.
And when you said the Helen MT, it's like, oh, this is us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I just felt like I wanted us to have, first of all, that we're starting this is you and I together. And I just wanted to release any of the old ugly energy of feminine warrior and just invite in this new sort of beginning with you and I.
Yeah. And so when you asked, we talked about it.
Yeah.
And then I said, yeah, let's we didn't know a name.
No, we
let's
didn't.
just change it.
Yeah.
So I was journaling. It must have been like before 8 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning. And after that conversation, I was just doodling and thinking about names. And I wrote down Helen MT Podcast, Words and Wisdom. And you text back to me, Helen MT Podcast, Words and Wisdom.
Yes.
How in sync is that?
Yeah.
And so that was it. Like, it's just, you can't go back.
And it's lovely because I think sometimes you think you have to have a name.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to have this. But I just like that it's simple and it's to the point and it's just us.
Yeah. And I'm happy with it.
Yeah, me too.
And here we are.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Another new beginning. So on today's episode of our podcast, we are going to be discussing aging. And this is a conversation that MT and I really like to talk about. So much so that we have decided that each month we want to showcase an episode on aging. We want to talk about what happens to us physically, emotionally, loss, money, dating, and whatever it is around aging that we feel needs our love and our attention. And we are either going to, we talked about, we're either going to bring in experts or we're going to bring in some of our friends and have round tables, discussions, because we have friends that are in their 50s, 60s. Some of them are dating again. Some of them are struggling with parents getting older, that sandwich generation, and even dealing with health issues. So we want to uncover anything around aging that sort of feels sticky for us because we know that it is a challenge getting older, right? Like seeing our bodies change, not being able to do what we used to, losing people we love. So we want to raise the vibration around aging and the awareness of it. But today, MT, you are in the driver's seat. You have come up with the questions and your thoughts and what you feel around aging. So just for our listeners, we will be discussing vulnerability, rephrasing the term, how old are you? What does getting older mean? How does it affect our careers and our relationships and the importance of our character? So let's get to the discussion.
Okay, let's start it. And I think I'd like to start with a quote by David Bowie. And his quote is this: aging is an extraordinary process where you become the person you should have always been. So I find this very powerful. And I have a few notes on what this quote means to me, but let me ask you. Like, what does this quote mean to you? Or should I share? Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's much of an emergency call.
Just turn the ringer off.
Yeah, exactly.
I think why don't you start with it? Why don't you talk about it? Because I was curious actually when you listed that, I was curious like, oh, I wonder what that means to you.
Sorry, my kids are the only people that call through, but it's only because they're an emergency contact. So I apologize for that. So this is, I have 4 points here what this quote means to me.
Yeah.
One, it's, when he talks about becoming the person you should have always been, is that we become our authentic selves.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two is that we have accumulated so many experiences up to now.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3 is we become really less concerned with judgment by others.
Yeah.
Where in the past, it's like, what does that person say? What if I, how do I look? Now it's like, hey, this is me.
Yeah.
And the 4th is that we come to this aha moment of self-realization.
Yeah.
So those 4 things encompass for me what David Bowie says is that we become the person where we should have been, where we think we should be. And it's because we always tiptoe around society, life, up until now for me. And I think my experiences and not caring what other people think has really come out in the last few years. And that for me is like living to my max.
So do you think that's one of the gifts of aging?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we can look at an aging as a negative thing, the physical decline, psychological stress, emotional stress.
Mm-hmm.
But it's deeper than that. It's self-growth.
Yeah.
Right? So that is such a positive thing.
Yeah.
And if I can look back and when I was looking at my mother, if she was my age,
yeah,
I would judge. Or look at, I can't believe, she would do that. But she was comfortable in her own skin.
Mm.
So, and I'm right back where she is right now.
Yeah. And it is interesting because I think that what I got from that quote, what I felt was that I find as I get older, and I can't remember if we spoke about this on the last show, but happiness used to be something that was external for me. So my happiness was, when I meet a guy, when I have kids, when you shoot that big client, when you do. And then I'm at this place now where it's like, I'm just happy. And it's inside of me. It's in my soul. And it doesn't, it's not conditional on sort of the external things. And even that happiness is like seeing my imperfections, seeing, where areas, where my OCD, when I was younger, if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, oh, no, I'm not. And I try to fix it. Where now I'm like, yeah, I have OCD, right? Yeah. There's just this acceptance of where we are and who we are. And it's beautiful.
I get that. And I think you're right. But so for me, it's like, just because now we hit over 50, it just clicks. We become happy and we don't care. But the self-growth comes with work.
Yes.
So aging comes with aging comes self-growth and self-realization and acceptance and authentic self. But you got to put the time in to do there. So, and that's where
there are people, I have met people who don't, and they're just like, they don't give a shit. They just live life fully. So it's interesting,
But
right?
Were they always like that, or is that just...
No idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that quote is. I think that person that we are, it's almost like it's always been there. And then we just sort of clear out the stuff that's blocking us, right? And we become more clear on who we are and what we want.
It's true. Exactly. In all aspects of life. And we'll get into this, like relationships, career, ourselves, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talk about this aging. Okay. So what is aging? Like, what is it? What is, when you hear the word aging? I know we talked about it. It's like self-growth, but is there a sentence or 1 or 2 words that you think of, like right away at the top of your head?
Fortunate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just had this conversation in the car. Yeah. I was like, wow, you have really good hair. And like, I just colored mine. I have to go like every month. And you said, oh, God, you're so lucky. I don't have any gray.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? He said, I wish I can have gray. And I'm like, okay, Helen, that's where you and I are different.
Yeah.
I will color my hair, not to show it. And you're just ready to embrace that.
Yeah. But that's also, I don't, I say that, but then who knows when my hair goes gray? Because I think the gray that I want to go, it happens when you're 20. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But but I do. I feel that age, to me, we're fortunate, right? I think that we're lucky that we get to grow older. And as you know, like I've lost my brothers and they weren't fortunate enough to see the age of 50 or 60 and and sort of realize their dreams, you know? So I think that getting older, like we're so fortunate that we get to be here.
Yeah, we are with health and mobility.
Yeah.
Which is key.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my grandmother, she lived, I think, till she was 90. And look at my dad. My dad's 93. My mother's 89.
Yeah.
Living in the same house that I grew up in.
Yeah. And they're in good shape, right?
They are.
Like
Yeah. My dad's, it's a bit of a decline, more difficult to walk. But my mother has the energy that I have now. You know, she wants to go out and do stuff and cook and family. And they talk about things that they never talked about before. Like, you know, this house, you know, who goes to when they're not around anymore, or you know, why, you know, what am I doing with all these things that I buy? Like, what am I doing with it? I don't go out as much.
Yeah.
But I see her still trying to live like there's another 50 years.
Yeah.
But she talks in ways that it's open about their death.
Yeah.
Which I don't like to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I do.
I know. So there's another thing. Yeah. Another difference that we have. Yeah.
But I do think, though, it is as you get older, you get more comfortable with death, you know? So, and I think it's also responsible of her to have those conversations.
It is. It is. And again, we never brought it up, so it was never spoken about. But now that I kind of, you know, poke the fire a little bit, it's definitely more open. Yeah. Well, it's like, so I was listening to another podcast where Diane von Furstenberg was interviewed.
Oh, Juliette Lewis, Wiser Than Me. Yeah.
And Diane von Furstenberg said, you know, I don't ask people, how old are you? I say, how much have you lived so far?
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's more of a positive way of putting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I'm going to start using that. How much have you lived so far?
And people go like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they
right,
wouldn't
exactly.
understand it. Or what is it? People go like, how young are you? Instead of how old are you?
Yeah,
right?
Well, why not?
Yeah.
We can start it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 3 questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
Number 1, have you had a moment where you ever said in your life, I wish I was younger?
No. You?
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
I would say at one point, I think if I could maybe redo the parenting days of my kids being teens, like being more present, or just I see things differently.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Okay.
But when it comes to like age as a number, that I wish I wasn't 40 or I wish I wasn't 50. Never. No.
Yeah.
What about I wish I was older?
Totally.
Really? Okay.
I remember when I was a kid, I would look at my mom and I would look at my mom's friends and just be in awe and just thinking, I can't wait to be that age. I can't wait to get older. I don't know. I just thought they were incredible, and honestly, I'm not like aging's never scared me. I remember my mom. So when we moved over from England, I was sick at the time, and we couldn't, for some reason, because I was sick, I wasn't able to get vaccinated for this, like, you know, that vaccine where it leaves that mark on your...
Yeah. The booster,
so I didn't know that. So my mom had that mark and all my mom's friends had it. And I remember thinking like, oh, when I become a woman, that mark's going to appear.
Wow.
Like I thought that it was like some sort of, you know, special thing that happens to us. But no, I always, and even now, like when I see women who are older, I feel inspired by them and I feel excited. Like I don't know. I never... aging just never freaked me out or scared me.
Well, so it's not as if you wish you're that age now, but you look at it more like, I look forward to being that age.
Yeah, or if somebody says, like, I'm 58, and a couple of days ago somebody said, how old are you? And I said, well, I'm 60. And I don't care. Like, if it's a 2-year difference, where I have a friend of mine, Natalie, where she will hold on to her age right until her birthday, right? She will not say that she's, you know, even if it's the day before, she'll still say her age. So I don't know. It just doesn't... Yeah,
it's interesting. I would not say that's me. I do not wish I was older or say I can't wait to be 60. I love where I am right now. I look forward to it, but I don't say, oh, I wish I was like
I don't now. Like, I don't look at someone who's 80 and wish I was 80.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But when I was younger, when I would see older women, I was excited and they excited me. And even when I would watch TV shows, like watching Fair on Charlie's Angels, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't wait to be a woman. Like, I found it so exciting.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think for me, looking at age, I don't think age was really something I focused on until now.
Didn't.
No,
we didn't then. Like, everybody just hung out. Like, it wasn't like age has become, I think, more of a popular topic.
Yeah,
and sort of something that people seem to struggle with, or maybe share their disdain with getting older. When we were younger, like, nobody really talked about age.
And now, though, I do hear from like some people in their 20s saying, oh my gosh, I'm 20, I'm going to turn 29, I'm getting old. It's like, I don't think I've ever said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's interesting though, because it is like sometimes my husband, if I say, what did I say the other day? I said something, he said, yeah, well, we're getting older. And I was just like, ugh, like, I don't, because I find that negative.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
For some reason, where he doesn't. He's like, well, no, it's a fact of life. We're getting older.
Maybe it's all in the tone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, we're getting older.
Yeah. Instead of like, we're getting older.
But with getting older comes vulnerability.
Yeah.
I think they go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I mean by that? I don't mean it as a negative thing. I think being vulnerable is a very positive place to be in.
Mm-hmm.
I think it deepens our relationship with others. How? Because I think being vulnerable, you need to be confident in communication and self-expression. And I don't think I would have been that before I was 50.
Because you were afraid to?
I think I was more of a people pleaser.
Okay.
And I don't want to, stir the pot, or I think I can be a bit opinionated with my own ways of living and my own habits.
Yeah.
But now I am very vulnerable in my close relationships, but because I think because I feel very safe.
Right.
And I didn't know what that really meant.
Right.
A few years ago.
So the vulnerability is more, you see the vulnerability as a gift in who you are as a woman, not vulnerability in the sense of like, oh, I might be getting frail, or
no, exactly.
So you see it as a power.
100%. Well, there's vulnerability. There's different vulnerabilities, right?
Yeah.
There's environment.
Yeah.
We're exposed to hurricanes. The social, like poverty.
Yeah.
Physical, we're prone to injury.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the emotional, that for me is the one thing that I really strengthened the most. And with the vulnerability, I think that came with I'm confident in who I am, so I can be vulnerable and really express myself. But with that, you have to feel safe with the people you're around.
And isn't it a gift too, like when you find that if, like, let's say, a couple of times where I've reached out to you and just say, can I talk to you about something and I need your help? And we're giving each other a gift with that too, right?
Yes.
And to hold that space and be there for that person, like it's a really beautiful thing that happens,
right? When
judgment. You allow yourself to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. But again, that's with people that you know that don't judge.
Yeah.
And again, with age is that you are, be you, right? Like be who you are, the best version of yourself. And I think as we're younger, we mold ourselves into what society or our peers or who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now it's like, this is me. If I can stand alone and I will, be open with the people I trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think what I have here, I had these notes. So it's with the vulnerability, it allows me, I think, to have a different perspective on life, and that I also can see how other people react to each other relationships, and even with me.
Yeah.
Because I'm an open book. I like to communicate my emotions, and that can be taken as a bit too much, but others will, feel that it's a gift for them that I can be that with them.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And you're not pleasing. It's like you're just being authentically who you are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you think vulnerability comes strictly with self-growth and age, or do you find that you're vulnerable even when you're younger?
Well, I think we kind of, when we're younger, like when we think about your girls when they were younger, my boys, right? Like they were vulnerable all the time. And then I think that, you got into, we fall into that. You want people to like you and you have to pretend to be this and that, right? Like it's almost like Benjamin Button, that movie. It's like going back to, as we get older, it's like we're going back to that youthfulness of just being authentic. And I would laugh when my boys would, when they were little, they'd be just like puddle of tears, and then all of a sudden they'd be like, okay, I'm okay. They'd snap out of it, right? And we didn't judge them for it at all.
But in some societies, you can't be vulnerable because you have to, or with age, because there's this social norm that you have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way. And some societies will just accept you for who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can find that even in some different cultural areas, even in Toronto.
Yeah. Well, even when you think of I remember when we were in Japan, when we went, my mother-in-law came with us and we met this gentleman there. And in Japan, when you meet people, you always bring a gift. And the older you are, the bigger your gift is. So my mother-in-law got the biggest gift. Then I got a big gift. And then my boys got smaller ones.
Interesting, yeah.
So they revere age there, right? Like it's like if you're older, it's like there's so much respect. Where in North America, I don't think we have that quite as much.
True. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And then, with that comes character. Right. And I think your own character is something that you can never lose.
Yeah.
You can lose your money, you can lose your home. Comes to character, you can't. And then once you build that strong character, that's your inner strength.
Yeah. So what would you say your character is?
My character would be kindness. Is that character? Yeah. I think kindness. So. I think kindness. And I love life.
Yeah.
What about you?
Probably the same thing. I think kindness. Yeah. I think I think kindness and just that, all the things that you're saying, like being true to who we are and the vulnerability, like it makes us who we are, our character, right?
And that's something that we own.
Yeah.
You can't take that away. You can morph it, but you stand in what you believe.
But also I love that saying, don't mistake my kindness for weakness.
Oh, that's
right.
A good one.
And I do think that is something that when you're kind, it doesn't mean we're weak, right? It just, it's, and I find that interesting too, because sometimes when you're a kind person, when you do stand up for yourself or something, people can be like, what?
Whoa, that's
right?
not like
a bit
you.
of a shock. That's not like you. And it's like, well, no.
Yeah.
We're not pushovers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think I'm definitely more selfish with things that are important for myself.
Well, you've got, I think, from what I witness with you, is you've got very clear boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're really good at that. Like you're very good at sort of, and you're not wishy-washy. Like you're very good, sort of like, nope, sorry, I can't do that. Oh, sorry, I got to go. This is how, like, and you're not wishy-washy, which I think is really, I admire that.
But that came
right
after the last few years. Was before that, I used to say yes and yes and yes and okay, then come, leave and thinking, oh, I really can't.
Yeah.
I should have just said that at the time. But I didn't feel confident enough to put, like you said, a boundary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now if I do that, I have clear-cut expectations of myself, and you have clear-cut expectations of me, or anyone does.
Yeah.
And I just thought about that earlier when we had this meeting, you and I.
Yeah.
With Mike from the Alma Combo. And we're thinking about doing something in February. And then February is a month that, I definitely I'm away. March a little bit, but more so all of February. And I thought, no, maybe I can be here for this. And then I start putting, my partner into this and everything else. Like, no, MT, you will not say yes. You're going to, keep to your desire and your plan for your family.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard. Very hard.
Because you're afraid sometimes when you do that, like, oh, what if you miss out, or what if?
Well, I don't want to let anyone down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that you can put boundaries on what people ask of you, or do you feel like you just say yes?
Bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm on one camp or the other.
When would you feel that you will say yes and then walk away thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that?
I don't think I think that. I think it may be afterward. Like, I think because sometimes, like, I don't know if you've experienced this, where I'll say yes and then I will do. So let's say being a photographer, if somebody doesn't have money, I'll just do your photos for free. And then I do it. And then I think it depends on, like, if the person doesn't value that, or if the person is just sort of like, oh, great. And then I'm just like, oh, why did I put myself out there when this person isn't even sort of respecting it? So that's a big thing for me. And I remember I had the most incredible naturopath. He passed away. His name was Ken Luby, and I loved him to bits. Yeah. And he did lots of work with AIDS patients. And I remember I visited him once when I was seeing him, and I just gave him a couple $100, and I said, here, this is for, like, any patients, that can't afford it. You can use this for them. And he said, thank you for that. And he said, but I want you to know that I do a lot of pro bono stuff, but I still ask people to pay me. So whether it be just like $10, $15, because he said, I feel when people have to put something into it, they'll show up more and they'll sort of take what you're saying more seriously. So I think that's interesting too, because we can give it, like, I'm sure when you have your own business, we give a lot of stuff away for free. And that's one of the things that I'm learning too, is that with age comes that valuing my time and who I am and my worth. So yes, I will do that for you. But even if it's like, buy me a coffee or something, or right, because there has to be that energy exchange.
True,
if that makes sense.
100%. And but I think with like you said, like you'll say, and let me do this session with you for free. That comes with experiences. Yeah. So the more you're exposed to that, and then throughout. As we get to our age, and then you realize that you have to pivot. So as the experiences continue like that, then you realize at one point, I need to pivot this. I can't do this for free. And I just had this the situation with one of my stylists. She just came on board, and she's amazing. Yeah. Thank you, Steph Cohen. And this first type of a client, and this client's very demanding. This client paid for 2 hours, and she has done 5. And I said, no, I know you want to please, but you're going to get many of these types of clients, and you have to be able to say, this is at your 2 hours, and maybe give an extra hour, but you can't feel like you've been taken for granted.
Well, and then again, that's, I think, comes with age, right? Yeah. Like, it does. It's like where you're just saying, like, having that value and that character and know what we're worth. I was in Montreal a couple of weeks ago. I was in a photo shoot, and it was very interesting watching the photographer, because being on the other end of it and watching how she ran her business, and there was like the PR team there, and they were talking to their clients who were somewhere else. And she would look at her watch, and she'd be like, okay, we're running behind. Like, let's get going. And she kept a really tight ship, but she did it in a really lovely way, and everybody respected her, right? And they were like, okay, we got to make a decision. Which is the picture that you want.
We all need one of those on the team.
Great. Let's move on, right? But I loved watching me, and she was young. Like, I think she was only like 30 or something, but she found that, and I just was like, good for you. Yeah. Because it does, like, sometimes if we don't sort of set those boundaries for ourselves, it's like we can make things longer and more prolonged and difficult than they have to be too, right?
Exactly. And I think as we age, we we realize that we want more flexibility with time.
Yeah. Well, time is like that's
right. So we said
where we have less and less time.
Exactly.
Right?
But now I think at this point, as we age, we want that more of that solitude, that one-on-one, the time of reflection, whereas or home alone. Whereas before, or when you're younger, it's like I need to fill up every night. I need to fill up my time. I have to do this. I can't. I don't want to be alone for this night.
Yeah.
And sitting in that space alone, for me, it was experiences through my age.
Yeah.
Because of my age.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't have done that in my 40s. I want to be busier and social all the time. Now I'm just like, okay, I just want to be home.
Yeah.
I value it. I need it.
I want to be in bed by 9.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, exactly. We're up before 30. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Another bed at 9 is like, everyone's like, are you kidding me? We're just starting a movie and I want to go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. But I find even when I go to bed at 9, by the time I wash up and do reading and journal, like it's not like the light doesn't usually go up till 9:30, 10 anyway, but I like to have that time, that wind down, that self-care.
But I am that person that I said in my 40s, oh my God, that person's older. Yeah, they want to be home and they don't want to go. What do you mean they don't want to go out? What do you mean they don't want to do that? And I am that person.
Yeah. One of my favorite sayings is never say never.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so easy to look at things and go, oh, I'm never going to do that, or that will never be me. And usually those are the things that we end up doing.
Yeah.
So I think that until whatever age you are or situation, we never really know what we're going to do until we're in it.
Okay, so I won't say anything. Okay, question.
You won't say anything what?
I won't say anything about that I'm never going to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
do you
do
have
it
nevers?
No, but I do think of a really profound never that my grandmother had.
Okay.
My grandmother was very active, and she cut her own grass at 85 and take the bus in Hamilton to the bank. And she said, I never want to be in a wheelchair or I can't walk and just do it. And she was in a wheelchair with left-sided paralysis for 4 years. And I looked at her and thinking, she said never, and we're letting this happen.
Yeah.
So that's the only time I would say never.
Yeah.
Okay. Now pivot.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask.
Whenever somebody says pivot, I always think of Friends.
Really?
Did you ever watch Friends?
I did, but not a lot.
Remember when they're moving the sofa and Ross is like, pivot?
Okay, someone else has brought that up this weekend.
It's the funniest thing to me, and I love. So whenever you say pivot, anyway.
Okay, so I'm going to pivot the topic of aging.
Okay.
And talk about aging with our career.
Okay.
Okay, so you and I, we started this podcast at 57, 58 together. And, do we once say, oh, you know what? Like we should have started when we were younger, or like, why now? Like, how much longer do we want to do this? Never even crossed my mind. But career and age does exist in society, especially in my line of work in fashion.
Yeah.
I can be a mentor, a consultant, but I think people probably we think of fashion as youth in their 20s and 30s, and I think I built an incredible business in fashion, and that's only from experience.
Yeah.
How about you? Has that affected you at all?
I don't think it has.
Yeah.
I don't think it has, but it definitely in ways of, because I had to, when I first started shooting, I was analog, right?
Oh,
and then having to switch to digital and, and again, when I was at this shoot, like they, were tethering things and I don't even do that.
What's tethering?
So tethering is where you attach a tether from your camera to a computer. So like how we're seeing this image on the screen, you see the photos on a large screen. And so that's when you're doing like big editorial things. And I don't do that. So, but but I also believe that the people that want us will come to us. And if they want to go with somebody younger, then that's totally fine too. I think that there's enough, I remember Louise Hay saying that if we all take our bucket down to the ocean, there's enough water there for everybody. And I feel that also in my career and in your career and as women, like there's enough out there for all of us. Like we don't. So if somebody, I have some times where people are, want to book with me and I'm booked up and I'll suggest another photographer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really important too. Right.
Definitely.
I think that in the career sometimes where I do notice it is that maybe I don't have I even hate saying this, but the energy that I did when I was younger, where when I was younger, I could shoot if I wanted 4 people in a day.
That's
now I
odd,
can't.
Yeah.
It's like you with seeing clients, but I also think that's because we give so much of ourselves, right? That it's just, I feel like I'm drained, that I need that recoup time.
Or we value our downtime more. It's replenishing.
Yeah. Yeah. But I know women. I know, like it's an interesting. We should actually do that for a round table, women in business. And just as we get older, like I know that there are companies. There's a company where I'm not going to say the company's name, but it's a big company, and men retire at 60, and they start pushing women out around 48.
No,
they start to make it difficult for them so that they want to retire. So
wow.
It is, So it is something that and then if we were at this age and we were changing careers, would we be hireable, or would we face ageism? Even though maybe we don't look the age that we are this age, and people are going to know that. So would that affect sort of how people view us in hiring us?
Interesting. I think age with career, I see my weakness in technology.
Yeah.
Because I think the youth, or even you at your age, your technology is in our face from school now, in our kids' face. Like they're with the phone and their laptop right away. I was typing my essays in university.
Yeah.
At a communal typewriter at McMaster.
Yeah.
And introduction to a laptop or even a desktop was like in my 30s. So I wouldn't say I fear it, but I am insecure with that aspect. And I feel that in my age.
Yeah. But it's also, what is true today is going to be different in a year from now. Like it's changing so fast all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that you and I we're trying to do TikTok.
Yeah.
And so my son's girlfriend, Layla, who I absolutely adore, is helping us with it.
Yeah.
And even when I think I told you this, when she was showing me everything, at one point I went, you have to stop. My brain is hurting.
Yeah.
I couldn't take in anymore. Like it was just too much. And she was like, okay, so we'll come back to this. And but I'm game. Like I want to learn, right? Because I think it's good for brain health. I think it does keep us young, right?
We feel better about ourselves.
Yeah, and not to let sort of, and I can't remember if we spoke about this before, but those things that are challenging, lean into it, right? Like it's okay. You'll figure it out.
But again, and I keep using this word age, but leaning into it in our 20s and 30s and maybe even our 40s wasn't as strong as it is now for me.
Yeah.
I would think it and I would park it, but now if I feel it, I want to do it.
Yeah.
But even me, if I want to learn about YouTube, what do? I set up my desk, my paper, my iPad, and I try to say, okay, I'm going to learn. I just can't pick up my phone and start scroll and start learning because I am the old school. I need to set it all up. Look at me. Look at my calendar.
Yeah.
It's this big fat thing.
Yeah.
I don't use my phone.
Yeah.
But that's how I learn.
Yeah. I do a little bit of both. I have both, but I love pen to paper.
Yeah, that's me. And that's old school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I think one other thing I like to talk about is aging and relationships. Relationships, one, with a partner.
Yeah.
And I feel for myself, the one thing that stands out the most for me at my age and my partner is being vulnerable. I do that with confidence.
Okay.
And
you haven't had that before?
I didn't feel it.
Okay.
No, I didn't really. The word being vulnerable wasn't really in my radar.
Yeah.
until the last few years.
Yeah.
And now it's number one.
Yeah. But were you always vulnerable, but you didn't realize it? Because I think that
that's a good way of putting it.
Brene Brown and
That's a good way
Glennon
of putting it,
Doyle,
yeah.
like they really have taken that. Like I don't know if you were the same, but I used to think that how sensitive I was or how deeply I felt things, I was like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later, actually, I would say my husband even was just like, Helen, that's your gift.
Yeah.
And he said, but it's a double-edged sword. It means that you're going to get hurt more or you're going to feel more pain, right? And so, but I think that I didn't really think it was a power or a good thing until the conversation, like you're saying, talking about vulnerability and that our sensitivity is a gift. Like that's just been over the last 5 years that's been happening.
Being emotional, is that really owning your vulnerability in the sense of, communicating things or being comfortable with who you are? Whereas I could be emotional, but not have those two things.
Say
Right?
that again.
Okay, so you're emotional, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, you're always emotional, and you get affected by things deeper, as you would say. But for some people, they might have that.
Yeah.
But are they vulnerable in their relationships in that they can communicate why they're like that?
Right.
What upsets them? This is who I am. So I don't feel that being emotional is being vulnerable.
Okay.
Or am I? That's how that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah. Because I was emotional always, but I think for me, when I think of the word being vulnerable, is that I can express myself in a way that is not, or is in a soft tone, and at the same time, being vulnerable is like, this is who I am. I want to be quirky. I want to not acknowledge that I don't know something, but that's me.
Yeah. But I don't think, I think being vulnerable can be that. I think it can be I think it's both. I think it can also being emotional, right? And being able to cry in front of somebody or just say that you're scared or, gosh, how many times, having to say to somebody that you like them and they're like, sorry, I don't feel the same way. And you're like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you, like, were your relationships at this point in your life, would you say that they've formed in a different way because of your age, or they've always been consistent?
Oh, they're stronger now.
Yeah.
Right? Like I value them.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband, we've been together almost 25 years. So he's just like, I just value him and that. The boys are, how we feel about our kids. They're our everything. And then my friendships, like I totally understand the importance of those. And especially now as I'm older, like my girlfriends are, I've said this before, they're like my sacred place. They're like my church, You kind of go to them and everything you share with them and they just hold that space for you, which I just think is important. So beautiful.
That's a beautiful gift to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. Like I love that women, you see a lot about women, like, Jane Fonda talking about women and friendships. And I think I send you a lot of things all the time on friendships. Yeah,
I love them. Yeah.
And I love that. Like, I love how we're placing so much value and importance on that connection and that bond that women have, because it really is magical.
It'd be interesting to look back on those posts or those things you sent me, right, from Instagram, the reels, now versus the ones I used to look at 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? So the difference. Yeah. Yeah. I value more the relationship ones.
Yeah. What is it that you, in your relationship now with Kevin, what is it that you value the most with him?
Being ourselves. We're definitely, be you.
Yeah.
If you can do that, then that's
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great. I mean, we can explore this in so many different ways.
Oh, totally.
I would really enjoy having a round table or a rectangular table discussion on different people's perspective.
Yeah.
And even getting someone in their 20s viewpoint of what aging is and in their 30s. Like that would be something really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, we all have different stages of who we are and where we are in life and what's important to us. And, like even thinking when we were younger, like in our 20s or 30s, what was important to me is so different than what's important to me now, right? And that doesn't make it either better, that I'm better or they're better or anything. It's just these stages of our life.
And look at us, 57, 58, starting this podcast.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you for this. I love your questions, and I love how thoughtful you were about it, and I even think more that people that are listening to you sort of getting more insight into you, which is very beautiful.
You're welcome. I think it's just a matter of, igniting the thought of aging.
Yeah.
And it's not the negative.
Yeah.
Meaning behind it is that look at it in a positive way. It's self-growth. It's finally being comfortable in your own skin to live the next chapter of your life the best that you can be or be yourself.
Yeah. I agree.
It's draining, not being comfortable with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you to our listeners. We are always glad that you're here. Please follow us. And is there anything else you want to say, beautiful?
I want to say thank you for my bracelet.
Oh, yeah. I got from Jenny Bird, who's this incredible Canadian designer. I got these, one for each of us. They're like I feel like they're our Wonder Woman.
I know, right? It's great. I had a small one that she gave me, and this one is just never coming. These two make too much noise. This one is perfect.
Yeah, but we also love our bling.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it's character.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. And thank you. I don't know if you are watching this, you've been seeing, but I have been drinking my sweet greens from Drink Juice Co., which we absolutely love, and she has been giving us these when we do episodes for us to drink, but also for our guests when they come in studio, which is really great. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, and we will be speaking to you again soon, right?
Beautiful. I can't wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.